We won't grill our next guest on the nuance of the format, but we are happy to have Steve Kerr, sponsored by Xfinity, the Xfinity 10G network made for streaming live sports, which means it's the network you can rely on in the biggest moments. The Xfinity 10G network, the best way to stream live sports, and presented by Great Clips. In sports, success is about team effort, and the same is true for your hair. Great Clips. It's going to be great. Steve Kerr, good to have you back on, and not a lot of hair conversations here with bald JD and equally bald Dan Dibley here. Steve, how was the flight, and how does it feel to be back in the win column?
Flight was nice. I always enjoy coming to Phoenix, especially this time of year. Beautiful in the desert right now. And, quick flight, and it's always nice to come off a win. We needed one. I mean, that was a weird stretch. So, good to be back in the winning column for sure. Yeah,
a bit of a homecoming for you. Not quite where you played college hoop, but close enough to feel a little bit like home. And about last night, as we borrow from Guru and his Rob Lowe reference, what did you make of the bounce-back performance? And in particular, Klay Thompson, who seems to be finding a little bit of the old-school Klay comfort zone again.
It was a good performance. Our guys did a good job of taking care of the ball and executing offensively. Houston's a much improved team, and they're really athletic. They've got a guy they can play through now with Şengün. He's turned out to be a really good player, and I think they did a great job of adding some vets with Brooks and Van Vliet. So it's a good team, and we needed to win, obviously. So good performance. Klay was better. I think the main thing is as long as he's patient and taking good shots, he's going to play well. When he gets frustrated and tries to chase shots, that's when he kind of gets himself in a little bit of a rut.
Yeah, and Coach, when you look at just the last week and a half since you've been home, when was the point in which you noticed maybe something was a little bit off as far as the shot selection goes? Because I sort of looked at the first 8 or 9 games, and maybe the numbers for Klay weren't exactly what they had been, but it seemed like he was really making a conscious effort to play within himself, take the right shots, and you guys were winning in part because of that, right? The steady games were good enough, and then something happened on the homestand that he had a couple. The Cleveland first Minnesota game struggled, and then everything with Jaden McDaniels, and it seemed like it just kind of flipped quick. The losing, I'm sure, is part of that, but when did you kind of sense that maybe things were getting off path a little bit with Klay, and how do you try to get it back when it goes down that road?
Well, the good thing is we've been together for 9 years, so I can always see when Klay is frustrated, and we can have really open, easy conversations, and he's very coachable. He's just he gets so hard on himself, when things don't go well, and that's it seems to happen every year. So you can just see it in a game, whatever it is. Maybe he'll have a game or two. I don't remember exactly which game over this last couple of weeks, but he could feel it, and his teammates could feel it, and this is part of being a pro, part of being an NBA player. It's like everybody just goes through these stretches where you shoot poorly, things aren't going your way. Wiggins obviously went through it the first couple of weeks of the season, and it's all part of it. You just got to keep going, and that's part of my job as a coach, is to try to get guys to relax and play and just enjoy the game.
And how are you feeling now about Andrew Wiggins in terms of how he's playing? I know the shot's not falling quite as much as you'd like. I mean, last night was a little bit of a scuffle offensively, but defensively he's been terrific. Do you have to give Andrew some sort of, not daily pep talk, but continue to encourage him to keep shooting, knowing that the shot eventually will fall for him?
Not really. I think the biggest thing with Wiggs was just getting his legs underneath him and really feeling the rhythm. He's a rhythm player. He needs to feel good with his conditioning, his timing, and it just took a little longer this year than it has in most seasons. So I thought he was tremendous. 2 games ago against OKC, hits what should be the game winner. Unfortunately, obviously they score and beat us in overtime, but you watch Wiggs last night guarding Van Vliet, really doing a great job defensively. And that's his biggest job with us, is his defense, his athleticism, his energy. We always put him on the toughest cover on the other team, and he was great in that regard last night. So he's rounding into form. I'm not worried about Wiggs at all.
Steve, I know you addressed this after the game on Saturday, but it always comes up in those situations to foul or not to foul, and just kind of for our audience, give everybody a little bit of just your general philosophy on it. I know you have explained it over the years, and just how tricky that particular situation was with that little time left on the clock.
Yeah, I'm a fouler. I generally believe if we're up 3, we want to foul. We don't want to give anybody. Teams are so good shooting threes now. Almost every player on the floor, usually in an NBA game, is capable of making a 3. So we like to foul, but with 1.6, it's really tricky because even if a guy catches, you know he's going to rise up and shoot. And so even if he catches in a spot where you think you can foul him before the shot, it's just so risky. In fact, we had a game against the Lakers, I think 3 years ago, where we fouled LeBron before he went up to shoot the game-tying shot. Refs called the foul, and they gave him a free throw. You know, the league admitted the next day that they were wrong, but that doesn't matter. You know, like if you don't have a challenge left, which then it gets really dicey. So we were only going to foul if we felt like we had a clear, easy path to it without sending a guy to the line, and obviously that didn't transpire.
Steve, it's funny because you opened that up with I'm a fouler, which leads me right into my next question about Dylan Brooks and Fred Van Vliet. You got to love the way they played Steph Curry last night, right? Am I right?
Yeah, they're physical, and Brooks is always going to guard Steph, and whatever team he's on, he wants that challenge, and he's very physical with them. I think he does a good job off the ball. Our off-ball stuff is kind of unique. Most NBA teams don't have guys flying off the ball like we do, and so Brooks is pretty good at getting two hands on Steph and trying to ride him off of his cuts and taking him off of his path. But Steph's amazing. He just fights through all that stuff and still produces at such a high level. He was brilliant last night.
Steve, I got to ask you a little bit off the beaten path, and we were joking about it before you came on. I was really impressed with Steph's knowledge of the in-season tournament rules and group play and how the group gets fed into the bracket portion coming up here in a couple of weeks. Have you paid any attention to that at all? It seems like the league has made a point to try and make sure everybody's into it and kind of knows what's going on. But just where are you on your acumen as far as studying the in-season tournament as far as it lays out to try to win it?
Well, we want to win it, but I'm not studying it. So is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's more than fair. Steph blew me away with his answer the night, and again, it was almost as if if somebody got a sheet from the league office, it looked like he read it 3 or 4 times.
Right. Well, look, we're 1-1. We've got 2 games left, and we're going to have to win both of them to have a chance. We know that. So it would be fun. It would be really fun to advance and get to Vegas and feel the different format, almost like a Final Four type atmosphere. And we don't know exactly, how it's going to play out. Obviously, it's year one, but it's a competition. There's something on the line. Guys want to win for sure.
Have you noticed any different level of play in those games specifically? I mean, the game in OKC was awesome. I mean, maybe the best game of the year. And then all hell broke loose in the Minnesota game. So I guess intensity and quality, maybe it's coincidence, but it's been there in your guys' games.
The intensity is there, that's for sure. But I don't know if that's specifically because it's in tournament games or not. I mean, we're going to go out there and try to win any game. But the fact that it's out there, and the players know there's a lot of money on the line. There's a different vibe, there's a different feel. It's something our guys definitely want to go for, and they've been good. It's just we're not treating it any differently than we would a normal game.
Warriors head coach Steve Kerr here on 95.7 The Game. You can't talk intensity without talking about Draymond Green, who is out until next Tuesday at Sacramento. What has he been doing in terms of staying in shape, and what has been your contact with Draymond Green, other than obviously not having him around for games?
Well, he scrimmaged today with our younger guys, and he's on the trip here to Phoenix. So tomorrow we'll have another group that plays at scrimmages, with Draymond. So he's getting his work in, and I'm seeing him pretty much every day. And he has to leave the arena when he's suspended. You have to leave, I think, 2 hours before game starts. So he, obviously hasn't been around for the games, but he's around beforehand, and we've been talking every day.
And I know you don't typically want to divulge, the conversations that maybe you've had with him, given the incident and the like. But what just kind of generally, how have those conversations gone, or if you needed to have a big conversation? I mean, you were pretty straightforward with your answering of the question regarding the suspension in the game after, before that game, but just kind of where are you at with the latest incident, and just where you think he is at in that whole debate about having to be himself but not crossing the line?
Bottom line is we need Draymond. You can see without him, we don't have as much force. We don't have a lot of things. Just he's one of the best defensive players, obviously in the league. Does so much for us offensively with his screening and pushing the ball in transition, creating stuff in the half court. So we just need him, and he knows that. I've made that pretty clear. That's obvious, but he's got to be there for his teammates. That's the main thing. Our teammates need him. He's got to be out there for them. But Draymond knows what he's got to do.
Yeah, one more week, and then Draymond's back at Sacramento. Dario Saric told NBC Sports Bay Area last night that during the losing streak, guys would go back on the court after games to figure out what went wrong defensively. He said he's never seen that before. Is that something that you advocated that? Is that something that's completely out of left field? Because it seems somewhat unheard of. We hear about guys going out to get their shots up, but to go back out and try to figure things out defensively, is that out of the ordinary?
It's funny. I was in my office, and I was with a couple people and trying to unwind after the game, and I looked down onto the practice floor, and about 8 guys were out there, and they were going through pick and roll coverage. So it was great. They didn't go back on the main floor, but in our practice area, right outside the locker room and the weight room is the practice floor. So guys are generally in that area anyway, at post game. But this was the first time I've ever seen a post game meeting / defensive session, and I loved it. It was really just the players, and the coaches weren't involved, and that's kind of the best case scenario. Is as a coach, you want your guys really communicating and trying to figure things out. When things aren't going well.
Steve, the slow start last year, it made the rest of the year kind of an uphill climb. I know you're kind of over talking about last year, but you are in a similar spot record-wise. I think 6-9 after 15 last year, 7-8 now this year. Didn't look like it was going to get to that point. But the Western Conference, it looks like it's even deeper and better, and there's some teams that were even beneath you guys in the standings when it was all said and done who seem significantly better, at least early. Are you thinking about really needing to try to avoid digging a hole similar to the hole that you were in last year, because it would be more difficult this year to get out of?
Yeah, I'm not really thinking too much about any of that stuff right now. We're focused on our team and just getting better and finding some momentum. I think we had some momentum early on in the season. I think we showed what we can be as a team, and then kind of got sidetracked a little bit. So we're just trying to find that groove again. I do really like this. I like the roster. I think the hardest thing, honestly, right now is that we've got 12 guys who could all be in the rotation. And that's a good thing. The roster's excellent. But we need to figure out who are our top 9, 10 guys, and are those guys going to emerge? I would say right now, we kind of know who our best players are, but we've got a group of, 7, 8 guys who are all kind of right in a similar place, and nobody has really separated themselves from the pack. So we're just trying to play a lot of guys and give ourselves an opportunity to see different combinations and hopefully, find a definite group that night in and night out we can count on.
Do you view that trying to figure it out part a decision among maybe the 7 to 12 portion? I mean, I hate putting a specific number on anybody, but I think everybody knows who the top 6 are. Is it about the 7 to 12 and having a few of those guys separate, or is it more about maybe some of the struggles of the players that are in that top 6, and maybe if a couple from that second group push them into maybe taking some time?
Yeah, I mean, it's really about both, if that makes sense, because how the top 6 guys play impacts who we need with them and what we need with them, and so we haven't really gotten clarity yet. I think honestly, for our team to really take the next step, we need last year's starting 5. Draymond and Loon as the bigs, and Steph, Klay, and Wiggins. We need them to perform like they have the last couple of years. Once they start doing that, now the bench really forms quickly, and then you figure out the combinations pretty easily. What you need most, and because if you look at our bench performance, we've been great all year off the bench. We're getting really good performances, but again, what are the combinations, and what are the best groupings that allow us to really put pressure on teams for 48 minutes? We're still searching for that.
And as part of your search in terms of who can help you on the defensive end, and I'm fascinated, Steve, by this midnight hour defensive players-only session, because there's no GP2 and there's no Draymond. So who would be the one who would lead such a session, and how impactful is that in terms of you trying to determine who's going to be a part of that rotation?
Well, I had nothing to do with that. Like I said, I was sitting in my office, so that's just. I think Chris Paul was leading it, and as guys were observing, other guys walked out onto the floor and engaged in the conversation, and so that really doesn't have anything to do with my decisions rotation wise. So this is really about us, just building momentum, finding a good groove with the starting unit, and then subsequently that'll help us find the best rotation off the bench. As I said, we've gotten good performances off the bench all season. So a lot of guys are playing well, and a lot of guys are deserving of time. But everything has to crystallize for us to really, figure out who we are.
Steve, I want to ask you about Moses Moody just specifically. I mean, you singled him out yesterday before the game just as, hey, I got to play him more. And I think sometimes fans hear that and they go, well, Steve, play him more. But it's obviously not as easy as that. What with Moses specifically have been the reasons why maybe he can't get on the court? Because I know positionally you play him a lot of different positions, but then there's other players that maybe have spots there. What's made it difficult to get Moody on the floor? He was over 20 minutes last night. And just how do you commit to something that you really want to do?
Well, it goes back to what I was just talking about in terms of having a lot of guys who are capable, but not yet knowing what our combinations are, what our best combinations are. With some of the struggles early with Klay and Wiggs, now all of a sudden we some lineups that we were planning on early on. Maybe they don't look quite as good. So maybe now we need a little more playmaking. So now, all right, I'm going to play Brandon because Brandon is much more of a playmaker than Moses. Maybe we need the on-ball defender, so we go to JK instead of Moses. maybe Gary's the guy who's playing really well that night, and we stick with Gary. So this is the point I'm making. We got a lot of guys who are playing well, but the puzzle has to fit. That's the whole thing with basketball. The 5-man puzzle has to fit, and in order for it to fit, we've got to see everybody, playing at a good level so that we can see some of those combinations. And frankly, because of some of those struggles and some of the inability for us to really find the right 5-man combination, then we started searching, and maybe Moses doesn't get as many minutes, or maybe it's somebody else. So it's all part of this early season, trying to figure out our rotation.
Steve, do you get to have a Thanksgiving this year? I see you guys don't play. What are your plans? You busy?
Yeah, I'll be home. We fly home tomorrow night after the game, and we're having Thanksgiving at our house. My wife's family in town, and just one of my 3 kids and his wife and their daughter will be here, so it'll be really fun.
The biggest question of the interview, Steve, and I hope you get this right because I respect you so much, but there's only one correct answer to this one, Steve. What time do you eat Thanksgiving dinner?
I would say 4 or 5 o'clock, somewhere in there. How's that?
You know what, Steve? I admire you, and I'd like to say that I love you. And you've won 9 of the last 28 championships in the association.
Oh, no.
And you got that one right, Steve Kerr.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Kerr.
Oh, my goodness.
American basketball hero, Thanksgiving savant. The correct answer is, in fact, 4 or 5. 3 o'clock is also acceptable.
Oh, my God. I thought he got it wrong, Dibs.
If you eat after 5 o'clock, Steve, any time after 5. Well, this year you got a Niner game. So I would advise all Kerrs to maybe lean toward a 3:30.
3:30, all right. That sounds a little early. But let's make it very clear. I'm in no position to determine what time the meal is being served. I'm not even taking part in the preparation, given that I'm in Phoenix tomorrow. So
yeah.
I will gladly eat whenever the meal is served.
Fantastic. And that's an even better answer, Steve. This guy is an absolutely flawless. Steve Kerr, ladies and gentlemen, good luck tomorrow. Good luck with Thanksgiving. And we look forward to talking to you next week, Coach.
Happy Thanksgiving to you guys and to everybody listening out there.
Thank you, Steve. Good luck tomorrow. That is Steve Kerr, Golden State Warriors head coach.